Welcome to the Ford Fiesta. I'm Adam No Ticket Witt.
And I'm Paulie Grail Preston. Joining us later in the show to talk about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is Mara Knopic, who's been talking movies her whole life, so we've decided to have her do it here. Why not, right? It's kind of like us. And Last Crusade is her favorite Indy movie, so this is going to be good.
So, with The Last Crusade, this is no doubt the last Indiana Jones movie. Hush your Hollywood bottom line mouth. Sure, they ride off into the sunset as if Indy's tales should be over, but this is not the last Indiana Jones film. So, why isn't it called The Penultimate Crusade? Well, we'll tell you in our patented Movie Guys recap. But first...
What's new in the world of Harrison Ford? Well, as we've said many times, this is the busiest season perhaps of his whole career. He decided to get busier than ever at 78 and now running it right on through 80 years old. So pretty incredible. But his castmates are also out there doing stuff too. Of course, Ki-Hai Kwan, Allison Doody. Yes, Elsa from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. is also working RRR. What they call Tollywood. I think it's not even Bollywood now, but it has a more Bengali history. So a Tollywood action movie, a 3-hour plus epic. It's pretty much the most insane, historical, action-packed, melodramatic, high-octane batch of nonsense you'll ever see. I kind of loved it. So Allison Doody appears in that. There are two British higher-ups who do evil things that cause some of the revolt against them, as things were in British-occupied India many years ago. She appears in there along with Ray Stevenson. Yes, the Punisher Warzone's Ray Stevenson, one of the Warriors 3. So, yeah, those two appear in the film. So it's good to see her, because I honestly haven't seen her in forever. I remember she appeared in A View to a Kill, and then appeared in Last Crusade, and then never heard from Allison Doody again.
No.
I haven't checked to see if she has worked a ton, and I just haven't seen it, but it was good to see her in this. Thaddeus Ross will be president of the United States in the MCU. So there are, again, signing up an 80-year-old guy to be in your action franchise, tough call, but he believes in it.
What a cool move to have Ross be the president. With what we know of Ross and the other plot lines, this is just perfect. And how many times has Harrison Ford played the president? This is the second time he's played the president.
Yeah. Given Ross's penchant for governing the superheroes, that will put him in a position of the most power, I think, to do that. So it could be interesting. I don't know the Thunderbolts, so explain for me and the world, Adam. The Thunderbolts seem to be the Suicide Squad of the MCU. They're the bad guys, or the guys who are considered on the edge, off the rails. Yelena, right, from Black Widow, as well.
Right. So it's all the sort of darker characters, but in the comic books, it was straight up villains. I don't know what they can keep secret about the Thunderbolts, but anyway, in the comic book, they were villains, but we didn't know that. There was these brand new superheroes, and they came and they were saving the day and all this sort of stuff, and America was like, oh, because the Avengers disappeared. This is when the Image creators got the licenses from Marvel, very desperate times for Marvel. They were bankruptcy, and all their big talents had gone and formed Image with Spawn, and that whole story, right? Mm-hmm. So Marvel gets desperate and they hire them back, but they get to make... Rob Liefeld got Captain America, and Jim Lee got Iron Man, and somebody else got the Avengers. And so they just took him out of the Marvel universe. So they did a plot line where the superheroes disappeared so they could make these alternate universe comic books that were terrible. Bad comic book, real bad. And so then in comes the Thunderbolts. After a couple issues, they take off their masks and you're like, oh my gosh, it's that bad guy and this bad guy and that bad guy. And so then they, for years, kind of were, secretly doing villainous stuff while playing heroes. And then eventually they kind of became more of the Suicide Squad where... Yeah, they did their time or whatever, and then they were allowed to, be a part of this group, which became official at some point. So
yeah, I'm curious to see how Ross gets to a point where he would trust any superheroes to do
I bet he creates
the will of the government, let alone villainous ones.
I bet he creates the team and keeps his thumb on them for his own needs, making them do, and then the plot is they have to break out of that, and do good. Basically what you thought the original Suicide Squad was going to be like, and everybody was super disappointed because it didn't approach what we kind of thought could be a potential plot at all. Yeah. You're and then they do good and they figure out how to do good, and nothing happens. happens in that movie. It's real weird. So they might actually do it this time. One thing Marvel seems to love is watching DC fall on their face and then going and doing something like that and going, here's how it's done, folks. Ooh, sorry about your Green Lantern. Here's Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, this is kind of how you do it, guys.
Yeah,
they seem to relish that.
Cosmic. Yeah.
So I think that this could be their, like, here's how you do Suicide Squad. Step aside. We'll show you how it's done.
Normally, when you Google Harrison Ford news, we get all our Daily Mail stories. Where is Harrison Ford biking? What's going on with the gossip around Harrison Ford? There isn't a lot anyway. You kind of got to forge it and make it up if you're going to have, because he's not a gossip brag kind of actor, and that's what I've loved about him since I was
that's right. They report that he's repairing and riding bikes.
Yeah.
It's not any kind of scandal thing. He's not on Sex Island with,
Yeah. So with Jeffrey
unless the
Epstein,
Nazis are there trying to get to the sex first.
Right. So they got nothing. They get now say things like, because he's on 1923, they go, did you know that Harrison Ford lives on a ranch in real life? And then they will report about how Tom Selleck could have been Indiana Jones. They're behind on all this stuff, or they're regurgitating it because they got nothing else to say.
You were about to scare me with our age there, Paul, because I thought you were about to say, did you know that 1923's Harrison Ford was once a character called Indiana Jones?
Yeah, right.
All right, well, we've got one more quick recurring show segment before we get to the recap. Ford. History. All right, let's burn through this. February 21st, 2020. It's a little past that now, but I think we wanted to bring up that's when Call of the Wild was released. Call of the Wild I'll always remember as the frozen marquees of somebody should start a photo book, frozen marquees of the pandemic. Because when you would go out and there was the closed movie theater and there'd be the marquee, and on the marquee was always Call of the Wild. I can't think of some of the others, but
probably Onward. I think that's the last movie I saw
that
before
was probably
I
one of them.
Got in there.
Yeah. Call of the Wild will always be stuck in my head for that. And we jokingly, when we started the show, we're like, we're going to do from Dead Heat and a Merry-Go-Round to Call of the Wild, thinking like, obviously Call of the Wild signals he's kind of slowing down a little bit with his career, which is hilarious now.
Yeah. February 26th, 2009, and I can't believe this was this long ago, 14 years. I feel like I just saw it, and I only saw it once, and I thought it was good. Crossing Over, the movie that I think is his response to turning down Traffic and having Traffic win Oscars.
Yeah.
I think now he was like, I could be in a complicated movie about the border.
Immigration.
And that's what this is, and it's quite good. A lot of real tension in it.
Oh, okay.
Good other actors like Cliff Curtis are in it. So, I'm excited for you to see that one. And for me to see it again.
Yeah, I don't even know the plot of that one, so it's kind of interesting. We're rewatching some stuff that I haven't seen in years, like Witness, where I'm like, well, I remember stuff, but boy, when you hop back into it, it's the full experience of watching it brand new in a way. Same thing with Working Girl, I'd say. I haven't seen that since that was first released on video. But some of these, Crossing Over, I couldn't tell you another person in that. I couldn't tell you a scene from that movie. I've never seen a trailer. That is literally a 100% brand new movie for me. And a few of these are going to be.
Ray Liotta, maybe? I don't know. There's other actors on the poster. Ford is like one of three across the top, I believe. Yeah, that's it.
This and what's the Doctor movie?
Extraordinary Measures.
Right, I have no idea what that's about or who's in that or what's going on. Yeah,
it's Lorenzo's Oil with him.
Oh, okay.
And, Brendan Fraser.
Oh, You Speak Movie? It's Lorenzo's Oil. Oh, okay. Oh, good. You Speak Movie too.
And then closer to now, but not close to when this comes out, March 5th, 1979, The Empire Strikes Back begins filming. So pretty impressive.
Ooh.
They don't get to it for 2 years, but then when they start to make it, it takes a year before it's released. That's interesting. And in a month or two. It's interesting why they even put the time between. They don't do that anymore. Now they make a movie, the sequel's greenlit and they're shooting while the first one's still in theaters.
Sometimes
if it goes well.
Sometimes they greenlight a trilogy from the start, which is so crazy.
Golden Compass, yeah. Ends up being one movie.
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back begins filming, and that's that famous story of that was just such an impossible movie to shoot. It's so easy for people to sit in their chair and go, why are you using CGI? Why don't you go out in the snow, and you hear the opening of that, and like they couldn't shoot for days and days and days, and the first Luke Skywalker shots are out the back of the hotel, because it's the only way they could keep the camera warm and sit it in the hotel, tell Mark Hamill to run out there and do his scene.
Yeah.
So that makes me think, like, when I see, like, the Tauntaun scene and stuff, I'm like, that could just be, because we're only looking down at the prop effect, you know, you're not seeing are they, like, hauling the Tauntaun, and is, like, Harrison Ford just leaving the hotel, going and doing that, and walking right back?
He's certainly there now. Like I said, he would shoot pickup scenes for Shrinking at either his or Bill Lawrence's house, because it's set in Pasadena, and they live on the west side over by, like, Santa Monica, Malibu.
Oh,
and
wow.
he's like, I'm not going back to where, you know. Again, why he shoots 1923, he probably sleeps at home every night.
That's the urban version of how he shoots 1923. It's like by his ranch.
There you go.
All right, and on to the recap. Sure, Harrison Ford has stretched his wings as an actor successfully in 4 completely different acting turns in Harrison Ford
Phase 3!
But as much as we admire this exercise as we follow his career, there's another word for these movies when you play them alongside Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that's boring.
Lollygaggers.
Well, like an oasis in the desert of respectability, Harrison Ford's iconic adventurer is back in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, his third Indiana Jones adventure in 8 years, or as superhero movie critics would say, do they make anything other than Indiana Jones movies anymore?
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade begins with an Eagle Scout with his troop riding horses through a Monument Valley-esque western vista. Mosquito Coast's River Phoenix separates himself from the troop and finds a cave, and in it, a crew of archaeologists uncovering a rare artifact, which is handed to a familiar silhouette, a man in a fedora and leather jacket, but he turns to reveal it's not Indiana Jones. And when the scout's friend calls River Phoenix Indiana, we quickly realize we're in a flashback, Indiana Jones' first adventure.
Oh, was it King Solomon's Mines? My parents accidentally rented that thinking it was Indiana Jones.
No.
Is it Firewalker?
No.
Treasure of the Four Crowns?
No.
Tales of the Gold Monkey?
No.
Well, it was close enough for me for 8 weeks in 1982.
Young Indiana Jones recognizes what these men are robbing is the Cross of Coronado, and comments the familiar Indiana Jones opinion that it belongs in a museum. So, in classic form, he makes it up as he goes by stealing the cross and running away.
Which leads to a trademark, Indiana Jones being chased by people trying to kill him into a throwback action set piece. In this case, a foot chase on top of a train car, Western train robbery style. But you know what's more fun than cowboys and trains? The circus! It's a circus train. Fun fact, the entire sequence was storyboarded as an homage to the Ringling Brothers train crash in 1952's The Greatest Show on Earth by a young Sammy Fableman.
Each train in this car contains Kitty Fun Danger. Rhinos angrily poke their horns through the roof, threatening to skewer Indiana as he wrestles with a bully above. There's a reptile car with snakes.
He hates snakes.
No, not yet. Well, okay, now he does.
The opening of Last Crusade gives the origin of many Indiana Jones trademarks. Not only did the Coronado thief influence Indiana's love of fedoras and leather jackets, but in escaping the bandits, he falls into a lion's cage and has to defend himself with whatever's in reach, which happens to be a lion tamer's bullwhip. His lack of skill with the whip is immediately apparent as he accidentally gives himself another trademark, Ford's famous chin scar.
The first 10 minutes of this movie plays a little bit like Batman Begins, if Bruce Wayne learned ninja skills and got the Batmobile because the guy dressed like a bat chased him through a warehouse with those in it. Indiana Jones escapes and makes his way back home to tell his father, who's de-aged in this flashback using the time-tested Hollywood special effect of not shooting his face or head. The shot instead focuses on his hands drawing in his Holy Grail diary. More on that in all of the rest of this.
But the young kid's adventure ends in defeat, as a corrupt sheriff takes the cross back and gives it to a mysterious man in a white suit, who pulls a belloc on the young Indiana Jones.
So once again, Jones, what was briefly yours is now mine. What a fitting end to your life's pursuits. You're about to become a permanent addition to this archaeological find. Who knows? In 1,000 years, even you may be worth something.
Son of a bitch.
But that's not what this movie's about, as the stranger dressed like Indiana Jones tells the young kid that he lost, doesn't have to like it. Putting his fedora on Indy's head, and as River Phoenix lowers his head in a smash cut worthy of Stanley Kubrick, Harrison Ford raises his face, which gets punched. Yep, that's our hero, all right.
We are now on a ship off the Portuguese coast on the ship of the man in the white suit, and you don't have to wait long for Indiana Jones to punch someone, because all hell quickly breaks loose and Indiana Jones does what he does, fighting the crew, getting across the Coronado back, and swinging to victory as the ship explodes behind him in a narrow escape.
Cut to the university where Dr. Jones is teaching a class.
So, spiders are arachnida. Arachnid, specifically. Web spiders catch and wind their strands around their victims and mummify them before they have them for dinner. Some even devour their own. But spider's not a bad fellow. In fact, in many ways, he's a truly extraordinary creature. Now, and here happens to be one particular example. I got $5 for whoever will come up here and let him out of the jar. What? No takers, huh?
He's teaching archaeology, like he did in Raiders of the Lost Ark, now making it obvious that the lack of showing the grounded Professor Jones in Temple of Doom was one of the reasons it felt a little off. We once again meet the Dean of Students, Marcus Brody, whose absence was also felt in the previous movie.
The very popular Dr. Jones is mobbed by his students, and to get away, escapes out his window. He handles the 4-foot jump easily and was probably disappointed at the lack of crocodiles below. Outside, he's met by this movie's version of Top Men, whose perfunctory dialogue we don't hear. The answers instead being delivered with some smooth storytelling in a great cut to Donovan's parlor.
Who is Walter Donovan? Well, keep that question around, it'll come in handy later. For now, Walter Donovan is a collector of rare antiquities, and he's played by Julian Glover, which any Marek Knopic, Mike Kalinowski, Robert Parker, or Kevin Smets will tell you is the AT-AT commander from The Empire Strikes Back.
Walter Donovan shows Indiana some pieces from his collection, including a stone tablet that is key to finding the ultimate treasure, the Holy Grail, the cup Jesus used at the Last Supper, and which caught Jesus' blood at his crucifixion.
Did you guys ever go to Sunday school?
And for those of us who enjoy Indiana Jones movies' exploration of new corners of pulp adventure every show, note that we have now gone full King Arthur. Indiana suggests that Donovan try his father, an expert on the Grail, and that's when Indiana Jones is pulled straight into this adventure. Cue the airplane and map!
Indiana Jones first arrives in Venice, the return address on a package sent to him that held his father's Grail diary, containing every discovery he made in regards to tracking down the Grail, and tips on surviving the traps in the Grail's final resting place. In Venice, he and Brody are met by Elsa Schneider, played by Alison Doody. She's beautiful, and that does not escape the eye of Indiana Jones as he has a flirtation with her with a style that echoes a more classic Hollywood vibe than the rougher-edged serial styles of the previous movies.
Fraulein, do you permit me?
I usually don't.
I usually don't either.
In that case, I permit you.
It would make me very happy.
But I'm already sad. By tomorrow, it will have faded.
Tomorrow I'll steal you.
I hate to interrupt.
The return address leads them to a library that very clearly used to be a church, sort of the Renaissance version of the payday loan that clearly used to be a Pizza Hut. The Grail diary holds all the clues they need to crack the code of where in the library lay the tomb of Sir Richard, as the Roman numerals lead to a giant X on the floor.
X marks the spot.
Indiana smashes the floor of a 3,000-year-old library and discovers an underground cavern and catacombs leading to a sarcophagus chamber where the entombed knight's shield contains the markings that match the other half of Donovan's Grail tablet, giving him the location of the Grail.
But what would an Indiana Jones movie be without a cavern of creepy crawlies? The Last Crusade trades up snakes and bugs for...
Oh, rats.
Hundreds of rats fill the passage beyond the knight's tomb. Indiana Jones fearlessly wades through them, noting that his father would be frozen in fear with a phobia of them, developed, we assume, when he fell into a train car full of them.
But like a good Indiana Jones movie, danger is around every corner, and so it is here as the duo are ambushed by some fez-wearing foes who set fire to the natural petroleum-filled tunnels. Upturning the casket of the knight and seeking shelter underneath saves them from a fiery, suffocating death and allows them to escape to the Venice canals, where Indiana's instincts kick in, enabling him to find the most dangerous way to escape, on a speedboat.
A speedboat traveling through giant ocean liners, ropes, docks, and all manner of creative high-speed danger, and it's loud enough that Harrison Ford has to shout, which is always a plus.
Are you crazy? Don't go between them!
Through several hair-raising maneuvers, Jones dispatches the pursuers in glorious and explosive fashion, culminating with Indiana Jones fist-fighting the leader of the band as the rear of the boat is destroyed, foot by foot, second by second, and is pulled into the enormous tail rotor of the giant vessel. Kazim reveals that he is one of the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword, a protector of the Holy Grail, and then he hits Indiana Jones where it hurts, right in the morality.
Ask yourself, why do you seek the cup of Christ? Is it for his glory or for yours?
Reminding us that this movie's about a holy artifact. And realizing this is not his enemy, Indiana jumps ship with Kazim, who tells him that his father is being held at the Castle Brunwald on the Austro-German border, and gives him some advice. If he's going to get in there, he's going to need a really good Scottish accent.
Oh, before time. Do you intend to leave us standing on the doorstep all day with drenched? Look, that gun and caught a sniffle.
But when the gatekeeper, much like the audience, doesn't buy Indiana Jones' Scottish accent, Indiana Jones does what comes a little more naturally to him and punches the guy and searches the castle for his father, only to find the castle is crawling with
Nazis. I hate these guys.
Indy uses his whip to swing through his father's window like a boss, but he is ambushed by the guy who looks and sounds just like Sean Connery.
Junior?
In fact, it is Sean Connery, in the beginning of the 90s Sean-essence, poetically in the sequel to a movie that was made in part because Spielberg himself was denied the director's chair on a James Bond movie. Connery now plays Indiana Jones' father.
Wisconsin Jones of the Navy?
Henry Jones Sr. The script efficiently defines this character and his relationship with his son, whom he infantilizes with a despised nickname, Junior. Henry Sr. smashes his son over the head with a vase, which he immediately regrets, not the hitting the son over the head part, the destruction of a precious artifact. He's more concerned with historic objects than family. But before the reunion can get going, the pair are interrupted by...
Dr. Jones. Yes?
The Nazis hold him at gunpoint and are looking for the senior's life work, the Holy Grail diary, which Indy used to locate his father. And, much to the consternation of his disapproving father, who sent it to Indy, not to signal him for help, but to hide the diary, as every line between these two further defines the relationship of Indiana Jones and his dad, wonderfully drawn with every line, including how Indiana Jones, despite being turned into a child by his father's tone, has a very different way of solving problems than his father.
Don't call me Junior.
But their victory is brief as they quickly encounter Vogel, the Nazi commander played by, as listeners of this podcast will call him, Force 10 from Navarrone's Michael Byrne. He holds Elsa hostage, freezing Indy in his tracks. But in another status change in as many minutes, Dad is calm, telling his son that Vogel won't shoot her because she's a Nazi traitor. Indy can't see past her beautiful eyes and the need to save her, so he gives up the diary for the girl, who was a Nazi. Like Henry, we are disappointed in his son.
In the ensuing conversation that occurs while Henry and Indy are tied up at the hands of the villains, Henry reveals he's not such a dork after all because he found out Elsa was a Nazi while he was in bed with her. Hey, James Bond still got it. But in the character-building tennis match that is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, James Bond turns James Blockhead by setting the room on fire, attempting to escape by burning through their captive ropes.
Our situation has not improved.
They free themselves, alerting a battalion of German soldiers in the process. Father and son flee on a motorcycle and sidecar, which is such a perfect visual metaphor for the duo. Indiana Jones having fistfights at 60 miles an hour on a motorcycle, and his father, 2 feet below him, being dragged along and shooting his son disapproving glances.
The hero of Raiders of the Lost Ark dispatches the Moto-Nazis in a variety of spectacular ways, including using a flagpole to joust a soldier coming at him on his motor horse, like a Knight of the Round Table.
But tellingly, Indiana Jones is victorious, but his father is not impressed, and retakes the status of the relationship by directing their journey to Berlin to retrieve the diary. Indy is only interested in the safety of his father, and they have switched roles. The father obsessed with retrieving the treasure. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And that's how Indiana Jones ended up meeting Hitler.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade sees your tote and raises you Hitler. Indy infiltrates a full-on Nazi rally from the director of Schindler's List and retrieves the Grail diary from Ilsa. But in escaping, he's swept into the parade and immediately after retrieving the diary comes face to face with Adolf Hitler, who takes it from him. Then, in a hilarious tone shift, Hitler signs the book for what he assumes is a fan, having absolutely no idea what a Grail diary is.
Indy and his father board another fun form of transportation, an icon of the Reich, the dirigible. And what a fun thing to punch someone out of, should the occasion arise. If, let's say, Vogel combs the ship for them, leading Indiana to don his third disguise of the movie, a blimp conductor taking tickets. Indy surprises Vogel with an Indiana Jones special to the face, sending him toppling out of the blimp. Surprised onlookers are shocked at this, leading to great line number 58 of this movie.
No ticket.
Leave it to Harrison Ford to deliver an actual punch line.
Nice. There's a nice pause in the action as the son tries to relate to his estranged father. It has the same economy as the rest of this masterful script, giving us some point of view and depth and a few perfect lines. For the moment, the divide between the father and son is bridged with the adventure of finding the Grail. Archaeology is something they can definitely agree on.
You call this archaeology?
But that's enough lollygagging.
Lollygaggers.
For this restless legs syndrome of a movie. The blimp is turning back to Berlin, and they're one form of transportation away from getting a tank on their punch card. So, to the World War II dogfight!
Those people are trying to kill us. I know, Dad!
George Lucas and Steven Spielberg giddily haul out a dogfight against German fighters in the middle of their adventure movie, and it plays like those two giggling while playing with toys in the story session. Once again, Indiana Jones is the man of action, with his dad dorking it up, shooting off their tail, and grounding them. But in a classic reversal this movie makes look easy, it's the academic that saves the day by using not a gun, not a sword, but his umbrella to scare a flock of birds into the rotor of the attacking German fighter.
And faster than you could say, tank? What tank? There's a Nazi tank and convoy driving through the desert to the final resting place of the Holy Grail, captured Marcus Brody, and in his attempt to rescue Marcus, Indy's father. This looks like a job for Indiana Jones on horseback.
It's horse versus tank. Underdog city for our hero. Boy, oh boy, does this movie know how to be an Indiana Jones film. Mm-hmm. It's all the excitement of the flying wing and the truck chase from Raiders combined. The fantastical World War II tank looks so badass and was designed for maximum action possibilities and danger above, below, and under the treads.
Indy frees his father, but doesn't have time to free himself as he and Vogel careen over the cliff in a model of tank made before airbags. Henry Jones Sr., thinking he lost his son, lets down his guard and drops his harsh exterior as he reveals his love for his son.
Lollygaggers. Lollygaggers.
The emotional moment doesn't overstay its welcome. It can't be overstated that Steven Spielberg is a very good director. And here we get another one of his signature emotional changes, as, in the middle of eulogizing his son appears behind him and looks down along with him, not in mourning, but at the victorious wreckage of the movie's villain.
They all arrive at the canyon of the Crescent Moon too late, as the Nazis have beaten them there, led by the traitorous Donovan, who actually turned traitor like an hour ago, but there's no way to fit it in. Also, Sala is in this movie. It's a lot of movie.
Right.
Donovan's team is unable to get past the first of the three great traps that test the cunning and worthiness of all who seek the Grail. The first trap keeps cutting the heads off of everyone, like a Ring security doorbell from hell. It's just at it.
Luckily, they have the world's greatest hero adventurer and his father, who knows everything about the traps. But when Indiana Jones refuses to do their bidding, the Nazis use a little German persuasion by shooting his father. Now, only the healing power of the Grail can revive him. If that's even true, Donovan, what if Belloc shot Marion because, the power of the R could be able to heal her? Huh? Anyway, my point is, maybe the Nazis didn't think all this through. This and opening up an Eastern front in the war against Russia.
Indy enters the trap and realizing it's a test of the penitent man, and the penitent man kneels. Kneeling is how you avoid the blades from cutting your head off. Also, you have to TJ Hooker roll forward, kind of, so maybe penitent men do that. It certainly would make church a whole lot more fun. Okay, everybody, put down your yoga mats. We're going to kneel and tuck and roll for God.
Indiana Jones passes the Aramaic Scrabble board level by getting the 12-point bonus combo for Jehovah. There was some grumbling about the spelling, but ultimately God gave him the points.
When Indiana Jones arrives at a dead end and chasm, preventing him from reaching the doorway on the other side, it's a good bet that he's arrived at board number 3 in this Nintendo game. In the Path of God challenge, only a leap from the lion's head will prove his worth. So Indy faithfully puts his foot out to walk and somehow lands on solid ground, hanging in the air. And then with a little movie magic, Spielberg cranes the camera to the side, revealing a very clever optical illusion. The bottom of the chasm was painted onto the bridge. It's a throwback to a time when you used to wonder how special effects were done. Remember? Wondering? Wondering. Yeah, but this is a rare instance where they show you how, and it's a little extra magical. Now everyone just knows it's CGI, even when they're wrong.
Indy arrives at the cave that holds a 300-year-old knight described in an earlier legend. But there is a final challenge because there are dozens of grails. And in this showcase showdown, you must choose a grail and drink from it, and find out if you're the closest to the nearest dollar without going over. Traitorous to the end, Ilsa suggests Donovan drink from this beautiful chalice. But Donovan gets a case of the melty face as he instantly ages into dust.
He chose poorly.
But which cup is the real grail? Do you know who might know? The greatest action hero, archaeologist, adventurer of all time, perhaps? Or maybe just Harrison Ford. Because who better to recognize the cup of a carpenter?
That's the cup of a carpenter.
And is able to bring the grail to his dying father. Not rescuing the grail for fortune and glory, but to save his family.
A family.
But you know who didn't catch the larger theme of this movie? This greedy Nazi babe who tries to steal the grail, triggering this cave's version of a rolling boulder as the ground opens up to swallow Elsa. Indiana Jones tries to save her, putting himself within inches of the grail, the lust for which had just killed Elsa. With his son's fate in his hands, Henry Sr. realizes there's something he wants more than the grail, his son. And after calling him Junior the entire movie, for the first time he calls him Indiana.
Indiana?
And father, son, Brody, and Sala all ride off into the sunset on horseback in a shot that absolutely announces that this is the last time we'll ever see Indiana Jones.
Hey! And that's Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, everybody. And who are we to talk about it alone? Well, we're the hosts of the show, so we could talk about it. But we do have a guest with us today. She's the host of the Basement Podcast on YouTube. New episode every Saturday?
Ish.
Yeah.
Plus, she's a partner in crime of ours at the Movie Trivia Schmodown, where she's a two-time Inner Geekdom belt holder. And if you know the show, we're involved in the Movie Trivia Schmodown. The Inner Geekdom division is movie trivia with superheroes, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, fantasy, and sci-fi specifically, and swashbuckling and adventure, which includes movies like Zorro, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
So she is the right person to have here. Please welcome Mara Knopic, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah,
Awesome.
my Star Wars coach, Adam, went right over here.
I am her Star Wars coach, yes.
So Adam with a 0-6 record is coaching you.
Those who can't do, coach, and those who can't coach the usual suspects.
I won a belt in the dungeon. I won a belt because of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, man. Got to see her come straight out of our little training sessions and take that belt first match. That was a hell of a way to open a season. Tell you what.
Pew, 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 pew.
Did you have another belt too?
I mean,
Did you have
before.
singles
Before
belt?
that.
Oh, no.
No.
That's big boy
Oh,
trivia.
okay. Right.
I'm in little girl trivia.
Gotcha. Let's see. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Taking us back to 1989. When this movie came out.
Another summer.
I was alive.
Sound of the funky drummer. Came out May 24th, so by now clearly Harrison Ford has established him. He's summer guy.
Yeah.
We've had 12 years of Harrison Ford on top since Star Wars.
But now you know you're getting one every year, and you know it's coming in the summer.
And it's so great. And you know it'll be on the cover of Premiere magazine.
Oh, a premiere in full form at this point, right? Paul, what was on the very first issue of Premiere? What was on the cover?
Dragnet.
100%.
1987. So we've had 2 years of Premiere, and Harrison Ford's right there in the front. Let's talk about this summer, 1989.
A number.
Roadhouse, Dead Poets Society, Ghostbusters 2, Batman, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Lethal Weapon 2, License to Kill, When Harry Met Sally, Parenthood, The Abyss, and on, including No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan. It's a big summer, is the deal.
Yeah. Karate Kid 3, did you say that? Yeah.
I did not.
Did you say Lethal Weapon 2? You said, yeah.
Yeah,
Of
I did.
course he did.
Now, Lethal Weapon 2, I said, and Karate Kid 3, I did not say. I think I did that correctly.
Yeah. Star Trek 5, did you say that?
I did not. No.
Well, you're still doing it correctly, I think.
Possibly.
But
Did that make
deal.
money? Star Trek 5? I mean, the competition was out there for Last Crusade, but I don't know if it came in the form of...
No, it wasn't a smash hit. I mean, they're coming off of Star Trek 4. It did not succeed to their greatest desires, but I don't think they made those movies for more than
what they thought the audience for those movies would all come see it, of course. So.
Well, they still didn't do that for Star Trek V.
Yeah, not even.
No,
That's true.
I love it.
I guess budget-wise.
Spock shoots God in the face. That's the tag.
Right.
That's the subtitle of that, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
What do we have? I'm being handed a note by Ben Goddard. What am I looking at?
The budget.
Oh, the Star Trek. Okay, Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. The budget was $27 million.
Okay.
These were the days. Right?
Oh my God, were those the days? Then something like Die Hard, because you always knew the most expensive movie of all time, because there was only one for a while. And I remember it was Die Hard 2. They're like, can you believe someone spent $65 million, not even counting advertising, on a movie or something like that? Or it probably was like 24 or something.
$27 million is someone's paycheck now. That's just their paycheck to star in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now Star Trek V makes $52 million gross. Thank you, Ben, our intern.
Thank you.
And as opposed to Indiana Jones, $197 million domestic. That's $474 million worldwide gross.
Oh, what was the budget on Last Crusade? I'm curious, versus Star Trek.
That I do have.
Oh,
that.
Paul
Where was it? I had it. Did I not have it?
We'll see who's faster.
No, wait. $48 million is the budget. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, $48 million. So it's
Okay.
twice Raiders,
All right.
and then some.
Wow.
In that short of time.
I mean, you can see it though.
Oh, they spent it. The locations.
Oh my
again.
gosh.
Oh, the location.
Well, this one might hit the James Bond of it all better than Raiders of the Lost Ark, which, again, that's a conversation they had on the beach. Spielberg wanted to make a James Bond movie. They wouldn't let him. You know, much like George Lucas wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie. They wouldn't let him. They said, so George Lucas said on the beach of Hawaii, he goes, "Oh, forget James Bond. I got the story for you." But it still has that sort of kinship with James Bond. There's an opening adventure in Raiders, that's disconnected, and then you get a little bit about him. He gets his mission. He goes out and does the thing. Obviously, there's a whole lot different, but this one really has that James Bond feel.
Yeah, it does.
And he gets to direct James Bond. For lack of, and Sean Connery.
Of course,
so
yes.
he actually gets to do that.
Oh, that is amazing, yeah.
But with Bond and Han Solo combined in this movie, it still did not reach number one domestically. What beat it at the box
ever
office?
during any week?
For the year.
Oh, for the year. Oh, well, I know it. We know it.
Well, no, it's opening weekend. It was number one.
I was going to say,
in fact, the opening weekend, it was. I have that info here.
I wonder what it
broke a record.
What it went up against the couple weeks after that, and did it stay in first?
$37 million was a record for Memorial Day 4-day weekend. Ghostbusters 2 broke that record by making more in a 3-day weekend later that year with $50 million.
Oh, wow.
But the $10 million in one day is the first time that's ever happened. That's the Saturday of Last Crusade's opening weekend.
Wow.
And
Spielberg still had records to break, by the way. It's just so, yeah.
But he broke his own record, Temple of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
And 19 days to $100 million was a record at the time as well, which now people are making on Saturday.
on
a
Saturday,
Saturday,
right,
if you're Endgame. But the number one movie domestically, 1989, was Batman.
Yeah.
Indy was number 2.
Never heard of it.
Indy was number 2, but Indy was number 1 worldwide.
In our
Batman
hearts.
didn't have the worldwide appeal quite like. But the crazy part is, I had to crunch numbers because of inflation, which people have done online. They take the ticket prices today would have gone with a win cost $15 to see. It would be $2 billion gross. It would be the biggest movie of all time, and it would be number 1 on the adjusted inflation chart. But if you adjust for, if you don't adjust, then movies like The Lorax, Venom, and Alvin and the Chipmunks have made more money than Indiana Jones and Last Crusade. And I refuse to live in a world like that.
I don't like that.
Yeah. So adjust, people. Adjust it for inflation. But adjusted for inflation, then like Rear Window and House of Wax and Duel in the Sun have made more than Last Crusade.
Okay.
Because those were popular.
The 1989, this was a big deal. And I don't know how old you would have been when you first saw this movie, Mara. I know.
Single digits.
Okay. When you first saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, or not when it came out, but when you actually first saw it.
Yeah, when I first saw it.
Oh, okay. So you were, all right, yeah.
I was rather weak.
Look, I'm wrapped up in the fact that, a kid as young as we were when we saw Star Wars, the first time you could experience it, was already into that stuff. I think that's good.
I blame my parents.
Why didn't they have sex earlier?
No, I should have been born in the 70s. I was a child that loves everything of the 80s. I love the music. I love the hairspray. I love the fashion. Look what I'm wearing.
Right.
I should have been born in the 1970s. It is a crime that I was an accident of the 80s.
Well, let me fill you in on how important this 1989 was for a person who's exactly my age. Because, when I was a kid, Indiana Jones comes about. I still am trying to figure out, what are all movies like that? Okay, other movies aren't like this. But I haven't seen Gandhi. I haven't grown up and watched movies.
Some movies do Terms of Endearment. Some do the greatest movie of all time.
Right. I'm figuring out the world of movies. Well, by 89, I am now... The term had yet to be coined, but a movie guy. I am the guy at school that people ask, what did you think of this movie? They know other people they can't go ask about movies, but they know one person they can. So I was now a movie guy. This was a summer where I was like, as a person who is now up on movies and following the stories of movies and following filmmakers, like Batman, that's a legacy that comes from, when I was a little kid, you see Superman the movie and you go, oh my gosh, I'm wrapped with this thing. But by the time of Batman, I've now figured movies out and I'm reading about Batman being made. Tim Burton's a new filmmaker that I've followed since his career started. I'd already been a movie guy when he was starting directing movies. I'm like, who's this Pee Wee Herman guy? Whatever. So here comes a formative thing like Indiana Jones and Spielberg and Lucas, but now I'm super fully prepared for it, been following the story. That was the big deal about 89. Ghostbusters, when I'm at 85, I'm a kid. I'm discovering I like Bill Murray because I went to a movie called Ghostbusters. Well, 89, now I'm a Bill Murray fan for all these years. So that was why it was such a special summer. It was I finally grew up that summer. I'm getting closer to college. I'm I'm going to do something with movies or media or that sort of thing. So the 89 was just magic, and of course just the one after another that summer. Just to give you the perspective, I know I felt, and I'm sure Paul felt.
I want to jump off that, and then we'll get to your experience first time seeing it, Mara. But I was working in the movie theater then, so my first job ever was in a movie theater, and this was in college. I would go back and watch and work during the summer before I did more interesting things and go back to my hometown during the summer. But I worked at the old Oneonta Theater, and so I remember watching Batman.
So you were there when it came out.
Well, those are the days when you would splice the reels together as well. So I'd splice the reels together of the movies and then sit and have to watch it just to make sure for quality control. So the night before it opened, I'm watching big bag of popcorn pulled from that
by yourself.
Leftovers.
You're watching Indiana Jones: Last Crusade.
Yeah. But yes, it was just me. But not Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones, I watched. I didn't splice that one together. There were a couple people.
Okay, so you had to come.
So I watched that in a regular thing. But every time I worked it, I was going in.
That's
and I did this with a lot of movies.
What
go in,
great job.
I worked the concession stand. I was no one's here. No one's in the lobby. I have to go in at this scene and watch the crowd reaction to blank.
Yes.
I have to watch that moment in Crocodile Dundee when everyone's going to crack up, and Three Amigos when people are going to just die. And I'm going to go in when, in Indiana Jones, they drink the Grail and the guy turns, and Donovan turns all nasty, and see what people think. So
it's funny you say that because the year I worked in the movie theaters, 92, 93, so that's The Fugitive for me.
Yeah.
But we worked in a very different theater because when, what you thought when you got the job was and in between the movies, I'll just go in and watch movies. Not at the Princess Theaters 4 in Oxford, Ohio. It was there is stuff to be cleaned, very meticulous. I mean, you could go in to check every once in a while to make sure the projection was okay. That was fun. But the thing I remember is, so instead of going in for a specific scene, I can tell you it took about 20 minutes to, an hour to finish up after the movie started. The amount of time it took for The Fugitive to begin and for the Tommy Lee Jones in the tunnel, I don't care. However long that is exactly how long it took to finish up at the Princess Theaters and be exiting so you could make one and I could stop in the theater after it was closed and watch the rest of the movie. So I always stopped into The Fugitive and it was always that scene. So that's how long it takes to close up the Princess Theaters for.
I really thought when you started leading with 93, I was like, oh, you want to see everyone's reaction to Schindler's List.
You're right, exactly.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm going to go in and catch the scene when he hires the secretary. Well, I got to see the crowd. They're going to love it. They're going to love it.
What was your first time seeing it?
I saw it at home on VHS, everybody.
VHS, baby, God.
The only way you saw a movie in the 90s if you weren't going to go see it in a theater, and it was already gone, of course. We wore out the VHS. We had at least a couple, 2, 3, maybe. I think we might have been on my second when I first remember seeing it, because I probably watched it with family. I just don't remember seeing it until I was probably 8, 9-ish, because I know I remember I'd already seen Silence of the Lambs by then, and I know I saw that movie when I was 7 years old. So, I can contextualize it a little bit. Yeah.
Were you a watch it over and over kid? Yeah. I'm assuming. Come on. I'm like, why are we friends? Yeah, of course you were.
Watched it this week.
Right.
I was
over and over.
I was sitting there saying the lines before they would happen, annoying the person I was watching the movie with. very, very much, and I don't care.
And wasn't that a particular thing? Like when you started memorizing movies, like you're like, oh, I know the next line. Like that became like such a fun thing, and then you could go back and forth with another friend when you found that person that could sort of quote a movie with you.
What is life? They say bread is life, and I bake bread, and I sweat, and I should just be so happy, huh, sweetie? Anyone else want to join me on Moonstruck? Or am I the only guy?
Moonstruck? No.
I love that movie.
I could do Raising Arizona.
Yeah, they gave that script an Oscar for a
Turn to the
reason.
right.
Well, and it was great because I kept saying the lines ahead of time, and then I'd say, "Oh my God, Ben, they really did this. They really filmed this. They exploded this, Ben," over and over again. I'm like, they really did this. That's why the movie's so great, because it's not green screen, blue screen garbage.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Let's talk about the making then. Because,
let's get into that.
Like I always talk about how, these movies that shoot in front of green and blue screen sometimes lose a little bit for me. Here they went to Spain, they went to Italy, they went to West Germany, Jordan, the UK, and the US, of course, those classic scenes at Arches National Park that opened the movie with young Indiana Jones. But other parts about making it, the motorcycle chase, filmed at the Skywalker Ranch during post to add scenes. Michael Kahn and Spielberg went, we should use a little more action here. So when they're running through the motorcycle chase from the Nazis, that's up in Marin County.
I didn't know that.
Wonderful. One of John Williams'
This is according to IMDb, which means some user did vigorous research and looked it up and put it on there, I'm sure.
And one of John Williams' favorite pieces of music, because he will go entire concerts without playing the Raiders theme, even as an encore, but he always does the scherzo for motorcycles or something like that.
Yeah, I saw him at the Hollywood
He
Bowl.
loves playing it at the Bowl.
And that whole intro with the train and everything. I love when they're like, we're going to play it without any music. See how exciting it is, everybody.
They do that too.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was so great.
Yeah, he loves Indiana Jones' Last Crusade. He features that a lot.
It was nominated for an Oscar, but how about the sitting back he could have done on that movie? Instead, he writes so much new music.
I know, right?
He could have just sat
including
back.
the first villain theme of the series. Yeah. Join me. Bum, 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 bum,
and the Grail theme.
Yeah, which is like
something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but that's almost like the Staff of Ra had its own sort of theme too. The Power of God, or something. I can't remember what it's called in the soundtrack.
But see, because
Power of God,
Power of God, or something. Temple of Doom had whole new music. It's a whole new setting. It's a whole new vibe. Here Spielberg wanted to bring it back to get away from the scary stuff and bring back familiar faces and kind of return to what the first movie had in terms of adventure and fun. But still, he said, "Well, let's bring some new themes in anyway." He could have brought the same stuff, and he just didn't. Williams is the best.
It is funny that you say that, Temple of Doom was this change up. Now, of course, John Williams, there are 50 different John Williams. He can play any sort of variation on his oeuvre. But I do love something I didn't realize till just now. You're like, yeah, Temple of Doom doesn't have quite the same score, and there's a lot of good stuff in it. But it's also like closer to John Williams' images, like Robert Altman's images, or like the experimental stuff in Close Encounters. You're like, I don't know if that's the Indy vibe. I mean, it's cool John Williams stuff, but there's a lot of like, I don't know if you're like, yeah, for this Indiana Jones movie, let's go a little more Robert Altman's images, a little Sugarland Express.
So let's jump back to the beginning, because talking about wanting to change the vibe from what he had in Temple of Doom, they start with a story. In 1984, Lucas writes an 8-page treatment called Indiana Jones and the Monkey King. Have you seen the Monkey King script?
No.
Because it's a thing.
It's a thing.
There.
Oh, my.
Oh, wow.
Well, here's how it started out. The 8-page treatment called Indiana Jones and the Monkey King. So in which Indy battles the murderous ghost of Baron Seamus Seagrove III in Scotland and finds the Fountain of Youth in Africa. Chris Columbus comes in, takes the treatment, makes a script. This is the script that's out there somewhere. Apparently you can see it. He changes the main artifact from the Fountain of Youth to the Garden of Immortal Peaches, which if you eat one, you retain youth. It's the same similar thing.
That seems vaguely sexual.
They meet a 200-year-old pygmy that sets him off off on the quest to find out how he got to be so old. And the script eventually had a dude with a mechanical arm, which is interesting because I always wanted General Todd to have a mechanical arm.
Oh, wow. They never got that in one of them.
And a cannibal tribe and a pirate leader. And Draft 2 had the Monkey King forcing Indy and a bar owner named Dash to play chess with real people, and the king would disintegrate each person who is captured. Indiana fights the undead in this movie and gets married. They scrapped it as well as too unrealistic.
Oh, that's too unrealistic.
By the way, this is the disadvantage of quality sequel making, because Friday the 13th would have made both those.
Yes.
One every other year. You know, like, or if you were Saw, you would have made all of those one after another, 1 year after another. So the quality filmmaking, you know, we don't get to see ideas like that.
Columbus script leaks to the internet in 1997. I remember specifically getting the internet in 96, so people went right to work to put this kind of stuff out there. Menno Mayes, who worked on The Color Purple and uncredited in Empire of the Sun, was brought in to go through revisions of the Holy Grail and Indy's father's story, which Lucas came up with. And at one point or another, there was an Orient Express, a nun, Henry Sr. ascending into heaven after touching the Grail, demons, Indy searching for Montezuma's death mask. 87, Jeffrey Boehm comes in and works with Lucas to what we have today. And of course, I always thought of Jeffrey Boehm as the guy who wrote Funny Farm, which is true.
It's true.
But he also wrote Lethal Weapon 2 and Inner Space and The Phantom. Yeah. So that's the long road to the script.
One of the best scripts ever written. I saw this at the New Beverly a month ago, I think. They had a 2 o'clock in the afternoon matinee. Blaze up, nice and high. Really going to enjoy this movie. You know, I could enjoy any movie, of course, but this one, oh my gosh. The way this script fires on all cylinders, just how it leads you from the next thing to the next and lays out the story. I mean, it's like Star Wars level. And the dialogue, Jeffrey Boehm's dialogue, you know, that whole, we all love the exchange between him and Ilsa. When she gets off the boat, here's a flower for you. And it's like, oh, but they just go back and forth. It sounds like, a play. You know, it sounds like
old just slapstick type dialogue.
Yeah, and then they get interrupted. The timing of all that. And then, you know, the timing of, like, run, all that sort of stuff. Like, every turn, there's just such not a wasted...
Oh, there's not an ounce of fat in that movie.
You know, and that's something that you could say about Raiders, but in a whole different level. Like Spielberg's had 8 years to practice of how to deliver, and what you have to say, that effortless Spielberg delivery of information. You know, you don't realize, like, people complain about an info dump. Spielberg's movies are these info dumps, but they're done so smoothly. You know, like I've always said that the 2 of my favorite lines in Spielberg movies, because they accomplish so much in one sentence, which is Brody gets up in Jaws and says, the sun didn't used to come in this window. Why does it come in this window now? Because we bought the house in the fall and now it's summer. Oh my God, I know so much. They just got to. And my very favorite line from E.T., which does so much heavy lifting for the entire movie, Dad would understand. But that economy and efficiency of how, you know, the things are laid out, I mean, it hits a level in this too. You just don't even realize, like, suddenly you're 45 minutes into this, you know, and a boat fight in Venice, and you're like, how did I even get here? This is just insane.
Well, especially because I think the difference between Raiders and Last Crusade, which some people have one as their favorite, others have Last Crusade, which is me, but they are accomplishing 2 different things. In Raiders, you're learning who this character is. There is a lot of quiet character development for him, singular from other characters. In this movie, we already know who he is. He's a very lived-in character. He interacts more with the other characters and fuels the plot more through his dialogue and his actions as a person that's collaborative in a group of people than as a man that's being accompanied by people.
Right. This is an ensemble. The first one is Harrison Ford movie. It's Indiana Jones movie. That you wouldn't call that an ensemble so much. There's great supporting characters. Yeah. But Temple of Doom, you call that a two-hander, right? It's him in Short Round. It's kind of a
Capshaw, she's in it.
A series of two-hander scenes, you know, one or the other. Yes, and Kate Capshaw, you know, which is a different vibe for the great idea.
She doesn't work for me, but I like that she works for
But anyway,
somebody.
This is an ensemble, yeah.
It is.
I love they bring back Brody. They bring back Sala.
Yes.
They bring back everyone but Marion.
When do I bring up my problems with it so I don't bring the vibe of the show down?
Should we let him do it now?
As we go?
Paul, you can't bring my vibe down. You know me in movies. Come on.
Even Wikipedia calls Brody Indiana's bumbling English colleague. Since when? Since the start of this movie.
Well, yeah, but who cares about who he was in the first movie? You're going to have fealty to the amount of character he played in the first movie?
Yes.
That's a dumb idea.
That's
a dumb idea.
Yeah,
but
that's established idea.
It's just, but who cares?
You don't.
What works matters, you know?
Well, I think it's fish out of water.
I mean, what are we not going to destroy the mythology of Brody? Guys, stop the movie. I know you've got a lot of ideas, but the mythology of Brody, a guy who nobody even remembered his name from the first one. They had to reintroduce him in this one.
Marcus Brody.
Yeah.
I do. I like the first movie.
Anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
No, I agree with you. I mean, he's in a new place doing new things. How many times do you think that man who ran a museum and worked with a university was ever being chased by Nazis? How would you react? I would like
That's
to
new to
think
him because he is the actual educator thrown into dangerous circumstances. Indiana Jones is the anomaly there. If you took anyone from out of Harvard and threw him into India, with a military chasing him, he's the more realistic of the characters, in fact, by being bumbling.
I mean, I'd love to think I'd be capable if I were being chased by Nazis, but I also don't want to find out.
They just didn't have a scene like they had in the first one in this one.
Oh, they do?
They do?
No. Marcus, oh my God. Marcus's info dump. In fact, I think at that school he teaches Info Dumps 101 because he lays out like a lot of things that then pick up where Donovan, he gives you a lot of information, I seem to remember from seeing it.
Oh, because I thought Donovan did the Marcus Brody info dump in this movie.
Oh.
Mostly, yeah.
But I thought Marcus does dump a lot of info.
He helps you kind of
about
learn.
The father.
Yeah, I was going to say
right,
more
in
about
the house.
who Sean Connery's character is.
That's right. He gives a lot of info about that. But you're right. Donovan is the plot forward.
Well, and he's the great line about like, oh, here's your dad's mail and it's been opened. It's today's, which you think is just establishing a timeline of events for when his dad's been gone. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing that spurs him to think, mail, and then he opens the Grail diary. So like he also helps fuel the plot.
Which is how perfectly this plot works. It's a perfect example of like, oh, that thing that I got in the last scene that you've completely forgotten about already because so much stuff is propelling you forward,
Could have done that without bumbling. But I guess
he doesn't bumble in that scene.
I know, but then why be inconsistent and have him bumble earlier? I don't know. So I guess never bring up these questions.
Because he's a pencil-headed Harvard guy. He's just, he's a nerd.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're a coalition of pro Brody in this movie.
Yeah,
people. It's
and
fine.
it works for the movie.
And so,
because the first movie doesn't have him in it, basically. So little you could round it up to not in it, right? Comparative to the rest of that movie, he's in one scene?
Yeah, he is. Well, he's the info dump, as you say.
Yeah.
Him and the CIA guy.
And he's in a statue in the fourth movie.
Yeah.
He's a statue.
Yes, he is a statue.
Yeah.
Did you know he had HIV when he was shooting this?
No.
And he was ill, and then that's why he died soon after.
Oh my God.
Terrible.
I never knew that.
Well, at least he gave us the gift of having such a big part in this movie.
Right. Yeah. Hey, you can't begrudge he's a gay man. You can't begrudge his gregariousness.
Did they hire him for his gay gregariousness? All right, what else? The scenes in the Zeppelin were acted with no pants because of the heat. Well, I could do that. That's how I should be doing this podcast right
now. Should we?
You can hear Connery. They're going, I'm not too hot to do the scene. I'm going to take my pants off. Want to join me, Harrison?
Next time I watch that movie, I'm going to watch that scene differently.
Yeah. Wow. Pantsless scene.
This coming from Wikipedia, so you know it's true.
It is true, yeah.
What else about the making? We have genuine Nazi costumes. That's
genuine.
Anthony Powell going to work there.
Ooh, so that would have been Hugo Boss. Hugo Boss did all the Nazis.
Is that really?
Yeah.
Is that one of those?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Sharp.
Mm-hmm.
This is why you invite me for this.
Wait, isn't Boss what in Rocky 4? Isn't that the shirt he's wearing? It says Boss, right? In Rocky 4, the throw in the towel.
Is it actually a Hugo Boss shirt, or is it just that it says it on
there?
there?
I think it's a Hugo Boss shirt. So he's wearing Nazi paraphernalia to fight the Russians.
Hey, I owned a Volkswagen Beetle, so
I know,
we all
exactly.
do things.
Yeah, I had one.
Yeah, you can't deny the wonderful thing about Volkswagen thing. They did some good stuff.
But they didn't shoot the Nazi scenes in Germany, so there's that. You probably can't, or at least shouldn't.
I mean, it's probably pretty traumatic for the German people, because, I mean, what's the movie? Captain America, the First Avenger, the people forget the first country the Nazis invaded was their own.
Ah.
So, I mean, I understand.
Oh, yeah, that's a good line.
It is a great line. Abraham Erskine,
I
Stanley
know.
Tucci, the Tooch.
And Brunwald Castle was actually Burresheim Castle in Germany. So they did shoot some of it in Germany, where they have that great tapestry scene. But rather than bring up how I don't enjoy it and you go on about how integral it is to the plot, I'll stop.
Well, we're going to bring that up later anyway.
No, we can talk about that. I don't know if that's not my favorite part of the movie, I'll tell you that.
Well, I mean, in Raiders, we set up how he likes to do characters to get into places.
Yeah.
So they did that again. For Venice, they shot on the Grand Canal for 6 hours. Douglas Slocum this time just framed out the satellite dishes rather than removing them, for which we mentioned in Raiders of the Lost Ark. They removed satellite dishes from the houses to get period. And this is the fact I enjoy the most. Mechanical effects supervisor George Gibbs said the film was the most difficult of his career. But it's on him that he built the tank from scratch.
Yes.
Wow, yeah. The tank is the version of the flying wing, a thing that looks so imposing. I always thought the flying wing from Raiders, I was like, oh, that's probably a real plane that they decided to... No, that's a complete invention. Same thing with this tank. I was like, oh, that's got to be like a real tank, right? And nope.
Yeah, except the parts of it, the scenes on top of the tank were built on top of a trailer, I guess, and they shot there for the stunt guys to be safe.
Well, at this point, also, there was a lot more making of stuff. I've always said the reason we love Spielberg and Lucas so much is it's if you wanted to find out how any movie was made in 1977, there were only like 3 you could find out how they were made, and it was Star Wars, Close Encounters, Jaws.
I remember that scene of the hat flying off Harrison Ford's head all the time he was on the horse, and eventually took a stapler and he stapled it onto his head. I don't know if you ever saw that shot. 5,000 rats were used till they set them on fire. Then it was 1,000 mechanical rats, and I believe they bred a lot of the rats because if you don't, they're going to have disease.
Yeah,
that rats just have diseases. I learned and found out.
Oh yeah,
movies are fascinating. Yeah. You learn things.
And then there's some guy's job to raise mice for movies and rats, right? Yeah. That guy's got all those rats right now. Nobody needs to shoot with rats today, but that guy's got all those rats.
And the morphing technology used in Willow was now applied to a human character as Donovan goes through his stages of
well, I'm
aging.
glad something good came out of Willow. Sorry, it's not one of my favorites. I love Val Kilmer, and that's it.
I'd hate it if I could remember it.
Good.
I might love it if I remember it.
No, just don't remember.
The point of it is I don't remember it.
I've only seen it once. But morph was the term thrown around because we didn't have the term CGI yet. People had to learn the term CGI later. I don't know, probably around Jurassic Park or something.
You just said morph, and I thought you were talking about a character.
Morph.
Now, Morph, when he brought the Indy into the Nazi...
It's actually Worf's cousin.
Worf's cousin, Morph.
Yeah.
But Morph, everybody would say, oh, that's a good morph in that movie. Did you see that Star Trek 6? That's a good morph when she turns
You're
into...
right. Black and white video, Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Oh, there's some good morphing in that. And so CGI was just called morphing at the time, I remember.
Wow. Here's another round of how'd Ben Burt do it. All right?
Oh, right.
How do we get the rats sounds? Yeah,
ooh, all the furious squeaking when they're being burned alive?
Something like metal scraping on something glass?
Actually, another animal. Chickens.
Really?
Chickens.
Oh.
Chickens.
Yeah.
Less cute.
Earthquake at the end when they try and remove the grail and there's an earthquake.
Oh, how did that sound?
Yeah.
Dump truck?
A rubber balloon.
Oh my God.
I guess he just moved a rubber balloon around.
Oh, okay.
He shot 357 in the Lucasfilm garage to get the echo he wanted when Henry Sr. gets shot.
Oh, wow.
And the biplane, he went up in a biplane. Because he's Ben Burt, and that's how he went out.
I wonder if that's the last thought he had on how to get the sound. I wonder everything he tried first, and then somebody, like Ben Burt's one of those people that's like so deep into doing this stuff, he's such a maestro at it, that he would overlook the easiest alternative, and he would probably present like 25 versions, and they're like, no, that sounds like sound effects. It's interesting that you, I don't know, jumped off the roof with a, your pants full of Jell-O or something. It didn't sound like a plane. How about a plane? Oh.
Howard Hughes did it. And so then in that same set where they were having the earthquake, 10 gimbals with hydraulics created that. And the whole scene on the boat at the beginning, the fight and when he's trying to get the Cross of Coronado, is in Elstree Studios with 360 gallons of water.
Also, it's possible. I make no promises, but I might let you guys borrow it so that way you can show it later. I do have a replica of the Cross of Coronado on its way here right now with one Dan Murrell, because I forgot to bring it when I got here 2 weeks ago, so I had him bring it. So it might be on its way here.
You know what's interesting about the Cross of Coronado in my research today, in my crack research that I found?
Please
it's the
tell
only
me.
item Indiana Jones gets and keeps and hangs on to.
The Cross of Coronado?
No other relic that he
Everything
seeks
else.
does he end up with.
Yeah.
It's the only one.
Yeah.
It takes him, 25 years.
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
It is, to do it, but do the math. Was it 1912 to 38?
to 38.
Yeah. And so 63 days of filming. Now that's like 10 fewer than Raiders.
That's crazy.
Right? And considering all those locations, it is super crazy. But
I love that Mara just threw in that knowledge, the exact years.
And 1912 in Utah, by the way.
1912 Utah.
His best friend is named Herman. I just want you to know that.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Here we go. Hold on. Okay. And
are we getting inner geek dummy?
Yeah.
All right.
And then the ship.
The Coronado.
The ship
off the Portuguese coast.
Off the Portuguese. I was going to say ask what the subtitles said off the Portuguese coast. What year is that?
Oh, well, that's in 38.
38.
Oh, 38. Yeah.
Sorry, Adam. I didn't mean to make you sound dumb.
What is the first animal he encountered on the train?
First one, rhinoceros.
Is it? I thought he jumped down into the lion first.
No, a lion's last.
Is that last?
Is it snakes first, then rhinoceros? Okay, snakes, then rhinoceros, then lion, because that's when he cuts. That's when he cuts his mouth.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually love that as a little just added thing. Harrison Ford with the scar, because it's one of those things where in Solo, a Star Wars story, I didn't need to know how he got called Han Solo personally, but this is an example of how to do that sort of stuff right, where just a little thing. It also establishes him using a whip, like this thing that injures his face that scares him, and it ends up being his weapon of choice. Like, what a cool thing for this young character for us to find out.
Oh yeah, he figures it all out in one day.
Done in Duffy Circus, by the way. That's the circus.
There's a question. That's a classic question.
I'm sorry.
The name of the circus is...
I don't know why I know this stuff.
Done in Duffy Circus.
Done in Duffy Circus.
I love it. It's so unique to have that level of detail about this movie, because we've seen it that many times. I just can't remember the name of the circus.
I mean, and a moving train. I mean, granted, moving at 3 miles an hour or something when they're on it, but they used a moving train, man. It's so cool. It looks so much better than a movie today. So much better.
When young Indiana Jones comes in and meets Henry Jones running away from the other guy, Henry Jones tells him to count to what in what language?
20 in Greek.
And you talk about the shot on the train. They specifically did the shot on purpose where young Indy hides in the box, disappears, camera turns around, sees him running out the back door. Not out the back door, but...
Unbroken.
One single shot to show you we shot on a train.
Yes.
They kind of just want to show you we shot on a train.
I love it.
It's an actual magic trick. Like, where did he go? Because we're on an actual train. It's a real set.
When you dig deep on these things, you find the weirdest things out, too. Like, apparently it's a very noisy set, and they were outdoors, and they're very far away from the production team shooting on the train. So sometimes they said, we need this. You understand us? And they would just move the giraffe's necks to say yes or no. To say, we hear you, we understand you.
That's great.
For whatever the next shot was going to be. All right, well, let's talk. Donovan goes through his whole spiel about the Grail, and his wife comes in and says, honey, the guests are... You're not talking to the guests, whatever, get in here. And there's a piano in the background. Do you know what it's playing?
I just heard this recently. The piano is playing. So yeah, when she opens the door,
a lounge version of the Imperial March.
Oh, that's what it was.
And I played it. I'm like, I'll be damned. That's it.
I know what I'm rewatching tonight.
So there's two ways that now people are digging deep and finding out things about the movie. Like they're saying, well, that's how you know that Donovan's untrustworthy right away. But you don't know. But you do know. But it's subliminal. Just like when
it's the Imperial March, of course.
Yeah, just like when Donovan tells Indy,
don't trust anybody.
Well, there's that. Plus, he also says, Indy says something like, well, that's when the ground falls out from under you, which is exactly what happens in the temple.
This is how well written this script is. It's insane. And I love one of my favorite shots. I mean, it's when I really enjoy a shot, even if it's not funny, I will laugh out loud. And I laughed out loud when I saw this recently at the New Beverly. The cut to Indiana Jones at Donovan's place, that turn that he does, it's just like, that is just such a great cut and moved the information forward because, boom, we're there. And I love that.
Well, and it looks so sinister.
much.
You have this triangle of men that surround him and are forcing him into a car, and you're like, "What? Oh God, this is bad." And then it's like, "No, you're at a fancy rich white guy's house."
And he's in a tuxedo, and that's.
All right, so that's Julian Glover as Donovan.
Julian Glover. What other movie would I find Julian Glover in, Mara?
Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
What other movie would I find him in? Star Wars. Where would I find Julian Glover?
Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. Who does he play?
General Veers?
Yes.
Yay!
What television show would you find Julian
winner.
Glover in? No, that doesn't count.
I don't know.
It's not the TV trivia Schmidt.
No.
He's in Game of Thrones. All right.
Yeah, duh.
What other actor who appears in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is also in The Empire Strikes Back? This is a deep cut.
Oh, wait.
Oh, is it?
Kind of an uncredited...
am I thinking of it?
I got it.
Yeah?
Harrison Ford.
Besides Han Solo.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Who appears in a Star Wars movie?
The guy in Last Crusade is also in The Empire Strikes Back, besides Julian Glover and Harrison Ford.
Oh, I know it. Isn't it it's the tank guy, the tank commander guy, the Nazi, he's in another... Isn't he in Star Wars or something?
You're talking about Michael Byrne, the main
Michael
Nazi
Byrne.
villain? He was in Hanover Street.
Hanover Street.
And we're watching all the Harrison Ford movies. So.
Because Hanover Street has it's more Force 10 from Navarone has 12 Indiana Jones and Empire Strikes Back people in it.
There's a guy named Michael Sheard, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, who he plays a U-boat captain in Raiders, the U-boat that takes down the ship and
he's in Star Wars.
Pulls the Ark off of it. And he's around there when the Ark opens. So he's like the legendary moments of Spielberg history. He's Admiral Ozzel.
Yeah.
And in Last Crusade, he plays Hitler. So there's a trio of films.
That's right. He plays Hitler. Oh, yes.
I always wondered, like, any movie ever. I guess I could have asked Taika, but, like, what does it feel like to know that, like, your role in movie history is you look enough like Hitler? How does that feel?
Advantage, disadvantage.
Well, listen, the point is, when you audition, just book the room. Even if you don't get that movie, book the room. They'll remember you. They'll keep bringing you back.
Right.
In fact, the guy who played...
Give me Ozzel. Give me Admiral Ozzel.
The guy who plays Kazim, of the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword, might have been Sala if there was a traffic jam on the way to the audition he had for
he was
Raiders.
almost Sala.
But he never auditioned, so he never was considered him. He still may not have gotten it. Who knows? But Kevork Malakian, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Not as jolly and fun as I liked him in this role because he's so serious and devoted and delivers one of the best lines of the movie, which is, why do you seek the cup of Christ? Is it for his glory or for yours?
It's a great line.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Amanda Redman turned down the role of Elsa. Amanda Redman.
Who was that?
Exactly.
Oh.
So
Allison Doody.
Dang.
Who's that?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, she's in RRR as a colonizer.
Alan Doody has returned?
Alan Doody.
Alan Doody.
Maybe it's the last name.
Alan Doody.
Alan. Or Allison Doody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless
Alan
something
Doody.
happened in the last 30 years. I don't know about.
She identifies as a
She
Doody.
says she had a fear of rats.
Oh.
I mean, would that be... I mean, I'd be get over that shit real quick.
Wait, did she acquire it on this set? Because that makes sense.
No, I mean,
you know, like he fell into a box of snakes and he got his fear of snakes, and the same day he got his hat, and the same day he got the whip.
Maybe when she was young, she fell into a box of rats and now won't be in Last Crusade.
Yeah.
I'd get over it. What about the aftermath of this movie? They literally ride off into the sunset.
Yes, it's the best ending ever.
they're good.
It's amazing.
But 19 years later, there's another movie.
That's not my fault.
There is. No, it's not.
I think Kevin Smets is going to come in here, and everyone's going to convince me I'm going to like that movie when we reach it.
We have to watch it together.
It has redeemable qualities, though the movie itself is not
It
redeemable.
has redeemable qualities. You got to want to like it, which you don't. But I'll try and. But I have an effect on that. Sometimes I like something enough that it permeates the room.
Crystal Skull shows up 19 years after Last Crusade. 15 years after that, we're going to get Indiana Jones 5. So again, Star Wars and Marvel fans, you have it really good.
Yeah.
Okay?
I have to wait how long for the next She-Hulk?
Stop your complaining. The novelization hits the New York Times bestseller list.
Ooh,
no toys were released.
No, I remember that was
interesting.
And I remember there weren't that many for Raiders. They tried with Raiders. They tried to release Bald Guy from Plane and Tote Kids. And then I remember Temple of Doom was just like 4 figures. There was like Willie, Short Round, Indiana Jones, and Kali Mar. Or
you
whatever.
couldn't like pull a heart out of a fake chest
No.
as a toy. That's a
No,
shame.
you could put a fake Luke in a tauntaun, but you couldn't pull a fake heart out of it. Why? They have that technology.
That's crazy.
The Crystal Skull comes out. That's when they put out some Last Crusade toys. Actually, they back dated and whatever.
Really?
Hasbro
Well, at
put
least
some stuff out.
they knew what was going to market because.
Oh, Adam, this will be fun. 88% at Rotten Tomatoes. But who didn't like it? This is a new face, but you won't be surprised. We've talked about Pauline Kael. We've talked about all. Who didn't like?
Okay, it's not Rex
Indiana
Reed.
Jones and the Last Crusade. Correct.
So even
Just a
Rex
new
Reed
face.
liked it.
Maybe they didn't.
Maybe.
I just know specifically when I saw this name. Like, well, of course, this guy didn't like it.
Michael Medved.
No, but you can see how it doesn't. That movie may be an affront to Jesus.
Richard Schickel.
Of time, he was a down the middle.
No, he was a regular. I just wanted to say Richard Schickel.
Oh, I thought you were serious.
You know, by the way, and I don't know if this, if I don't want to talk down to the age group in here. If this is, did you know that one time there were only like 10 people you heard of what they thought of movies?
Well, yeah.
Like now it's everybody.
Yeah, including me.
Yeah. Oh, well, not you are. I'll listen to what you think about movies, or Dan thinks about movies over breakfast anytime.
There is a glut,
and frequently
though.
I drew.
The not liking Rotten Tomatoes, Jonathan Rosenbaum.
Oh,
Chicago's
Rosenbaum.
Jonathan Rosenbaum.
Jonathan Rosenbaum was the most pretentious critic. He was the Chicago Reader critic when we moved there, and hated everything that wasn't impossible to penetrate, and would say the dumbest critic stuff. And I used to play him on stage in my sketch troupe.
No.
Except we called him Jonathan Rosencritic.
Ooh. Subtle, very
we
subtle.
may have later changed that because that wasn't too subtle enough, but I would talk with all the haughtiness. But I would read his actual reviews, but in that voice, and they sounded correct. Like when Star Wars: The Special Edition came out, his review began, and I'll do it as Jonathan Rosencritic.
Wait, for which film?
for Star Wars: A Special Edition. So he got a chance to shit on that movie again.
I think I know where you're going.
Right.
I remember that review. Go ahead.
You remember the first line is, "I'd rather read the books of the philosopher Georg Lukács
Oh my God.
than watch the movies of George." I'm like, that is not a movie review.
Wow.
You just are. You're just going.
He actually compared him to Lukács because I think he was like a communist or something. He was crazy.
I mean, but like, and these references were for the movies that Star Wars was not, was like, an actor prepares by, or whatever, or not actor prepares, but like a woman prepares from such a Seijin Suzuki or some Japanese, it's just so ridiculous.
Oh my.
And the
Jonathan Rosen critic
prologue from this inspires the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles,
which are so good,
which
by
I've
the way.
never seen, and
I'm so excited
amazing.
for you.
I'm excited.
That's great.
I watched that as a kid. I loved it.
Yeah.
What kind of plots did they have in there? Because again, we always talk about how we could go anywhere with this Indiana Jones.
It's primarily episodic, but it's good.
It's historically,
but I mean, like, what's he going after?
It's historically educational, so it's like they sought to inform the kids of a period in history by seeking a treasure in World War I or all the different fronts of World War I. The first season is World War I. The second season is like later, right? Because he grows up between seasons.
World War II?
It might not be, but he's older in the second one. He's a kid in the first season, and then he's
like one of the things that you probably don't know it connects to. Remember in Crystal Skull where he mentions why he can speak whatever it is, a language, some sort of Central American language, and he's like, oh yeah, I ran with Pancho Villa back in the day. That's from Young Indiana Jones. So like you'll actually get some of the, like, they referenced it, so it's like, oh, it's a cool deep cut, I know, so maybe they'll drop one in the new movie and you'll be able to say, I know what they're saying here because I have watched it.
Yeah, you'll love it. Like, for example, the one that Harrison Ford's actually in is Jazz.
Yeah.
And they find a flute in a cabin while they're running away from him and some other character from that episode. And he goes, Jazz, I remember Jazz. Cut to New Orleans and tell a whole story of how Jazz came about. Here's all the Jazz luminaries cast as actors, all this sort of, he just happened to be there.
Every great TV episode that has to deal with a flute and a flashback is excellent. Like The Inner Light, Star Trek The Next Generation.
Ooh.
A flute, a flashback? No takers? Okay, fine.
A flute, a flashback, and
the wardrobe. Connery, so as I mentioned, they won the sound effects editing Oscar. They didn't win for sound. They didn't win for score. Williams lost to Alan Menken, who was beginning his great Disney run with Little Mermaid. Then it went on. Then he won for Beauty and the Beast, for Aladdin, for Pocahontas. He was winning. But it was, again, good that he got nominated because people could have said, it's Indiana Jones again, but like so much new stuff in
and
there.
Yet it's like the greatest score.
So good.
And Sean Connery got a Golden Globe nod for Best Supporting Actor. So say what you want about the Golden Globes, though. They spread the love around. A big blockbuster can get a nomination like that and should.
Yeah.
He's fun in that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, he's great because think about it. As you mentioned, he's James Bond. Like, he's playing this bookish, incapable, older, really reserved man. And he was James freaking Bond. Like, this was, like, off-peak casting at its finest for him. It was
he's playing
good.
the opposite because he already got the James Bond of the movie. That's in the Indiana Jones. But let's get the original James Bond. Classically, just flip the script on that character.
Yeah, I read about the challenge for, I think, Anthony Powell, the costume designer. They could give him a tweed jacket, give him a fishing hat. Like, we got to give him, like, old guy stuff so he doesn't look so Bondy.
Yeah, what a great costume, huh? And this is the Connery Sants, because 1987 is The Untouchables. He wins Best Supporting Actor.
So good.
And then Connery's suddenly in everything.
One for October, etc. Yeah.
Right, but before he had a chance to, this is pre The Rock. This is pre, that's a continuation of it. But this is like pretty early in the Connery Sants,
And Spielberg wanted him for Crystal Skull, but he had retired.
I mean, I think that was a good choice.
Yeah.
I mean, would it have made the movie better for me? Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I would take anything that would make the movie better for me. Petra in Jordan, where the final scenes take place, went from a few thousand a year visitors to almost 1 million annually. Wow. People want to see the spot from Last Crusade. This was Douglas Slocum's last film. I didn't know he had I looked at his IMDb and just...
Huge career, right?
Because I heard about him come Raiders, and so the last 8 years of his life, I knew what projects he was working on. Died at 103 in 20. So his last film was 89, but he didn't die until 2016.
Wow.
So I guess he just goofed off for the last year. Did good for him.
It's a good retirement. You retire on Indiana Jones, and
And lastly, it's PG-13. Thanks, Temple of Doom. And 127 minutes, the longest of the Indiana Jones movies, but it does not feel it. None of them feel their length.
By.
Oh, this clips by like few movies can even hope to, I mean, I think Marvel movies have gotten real smooth, especially because they have 6 acts. This only has 3. But yeah, no, it's amazing. And by the way, you mentioned earlier, when I was at the New Beverly, they had a giant Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade poster, but it is the poster that is more familiar to me, which I had on my wall all the years, which is the one with the VHS price on it.
Nice.
So there's the... Right, exactly.
I have it. Sorry, I should have put it up for this. But
yeah, $24.95. And so I saw that and I was like, that's the real Indiana Jones The Last Crusade poster. The one that says $24.95 with a couple little video cassettes. Because other than that, it's just the same poster. There's just like a little detail there, yeah.
Coming to video cassette this November. Catch the hilarity. That's my What About Bob poster. Catch the hilarity on video cassette. November.
Now, $24.95 in 1989. What is that in adjusted dollars?
I mean,
what are we paying for
about
it?
3 times as much, I think.
Yeah.
Let's get a Google
like
off camera over there. Okay.
So this is kind of interesting when you think about it.
Shut you down.
Because
our intern's goofing off.
The intern's like, stop talking about the movie. What do we
not pay him to do?
What do we not pay him to do? But 89 was a big breakthrough direct to consumer. Like 3 months later, you could buy Batman and Indiana Jones The Last Crusade. Like 3 months, I think, theatrically. It was like a special deal the unions made.
Oh, I should have brought it. I have the 3 cassette set of Indiana Jones movies at home.
Nice.
Yep.
So, I think I'd let them go because when they got replaced by the DVDs, my parents bought me the DVDs for Christmas, and they were full screen. So I had to return them and get the widescreen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I've got to upgrade to Blu-ray. So at some point, I actually want to.
I haven't done that yet.
I have them on Blu-ray. They're pretty tight.
Yeah.
Why do I think... Did they come out on 4K? Because if they do, we definitely have them on 4K, but I don't remember.
Man.
And folks, turn off the motion smoothing.
Yes.
Please help your parents. The effects.
Yes. Listen to Tom Cruise and Chris McQuarrie. Remember they made that special announcment?
Yeah, that was the best.
Like, oh, that was the best. I was like, oh my God, they care about what I care about. And they actually like made this sort of message of, hey, when you're at a train stop, don't try and race the train or whatever. You know, like a PSA, but for motion smoothing.
It'll matter for their movies, the Mission Impossible movie, but these effects movies just take a hit from that motion smoothing. It just calls out the effects. Says, hey, look how fake this is. And that's such a shame. Our intern now is telling me $25 in 1989 is about $59.73
Oh, dang.
today.
So a movie comes out at $59.75.
Is it Indiana Jones? I'm buying it.
But you couldn't buy it before that. You just never could. You could only rent because they were $100. That's because the video store would pay $100. So it's just interesting. Adjusted for inflation, we're practically like, we're not all the way up to $100 to pay for a movie, but it's like, that's a chunk.
And one guy I want to shout out, though, before we go away is Robert Watts, producer.
Yeah.
Like, here are...
See his name in a lot of stuff.
Well, here are his first 7 credits.
Jeez.
Meetings with Remarkable Men, The Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Return of the Jedi, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. In some various format. By Crusade, he's a producer. I think he started as an associate. But, I mean, what a list of... I mean, you don't not work again.
Yeah. And also just as a job, a couple fun years there, huh?
Yeah.
You did what last year?
I worked on Return of the Jedi. I was up in the woods shooting indoor scenes.
What?
So let's go through the Harrison Ford. Do you have any final thoughts on this movie?
Oh my God, okay, I have so many.
Yeah.
Let's start us off.
So number 1, so much character development done about the relationship between him and his father.
I know, and it's all done so efficiently.
Just in the costuming. He takes more from a 2-hour fighting hangout session with a scoundrel than he does from his own father. He models himself after the man with the hat that gives him his hat. That's his whole look. That's his whole vibe, is this one guy instead of his dad. So already you can see the separation between who impressed more on him, this dude for 2 hours or this other guy for 18 years.
Right.
You know, presumably. I assume he went to the University of Chicago at 18. I just love that so much. The reveal, even the Sean Connery reveal when they bring him in, and you see him talking about a vase.
Oh, I know.
It's James Bond talking about a vase.
Right.
I love everything about how they decided to throw him in this movie.
Yeah, it's the antiquities guy from the very first line. Like, that's what he's into. He doesn't do what Indiana Jones does. That's foreign to him. Yeah. And I love that complete separation because now the guy that's never done an Indiana Jones adventure is brought on one, which of course culminates in the line, it's a new experience for me. It happens to me all the time.
And Ben actually mentioned to me, and he was so smart, in the 1912 scenes, today they would have computer regressed his age on his face. They would have just had Sean Connery be there and be, Tarkined, and I would not like that at all.
Instead they have the classic, just don't shoot his face.
Exactly, yeah, just don't shoot his face. He sounds so youthful and vigorous.
I don't even think it was Connery. It was another actor.
Oh, sure. I just mean, like, we hear the voice.
Of course,
They make him
he
sound so strong and young and handsome. All of that stuff.
I agree with that because, the Tarkin thing, I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
You need an actor to just turn around and go, hi, I kind of look like Peter Cushing. Can we get on with the story and not be distracted for the rest of the film? Anyway, go ahead.
I love that in these movies, but this one in particular, you can really tell that Harrison Ford knows how to ride a horse. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in movies. I'm a very accomplished equestrian myself.
Oh, okay.
So when someone really shittily rides a horse...
I'm somewhat of an equestrian myself.
But, like, it hurts a horse to not ride a horse correctly, especially if you're going at, like, a canter or above. You are hurting your horse, and they just don't care now. Half the time, they don't teach actors how to ride horses properly.
And he looks so cool on the horse.
Well, because you can tell he's established. Like, he has spent a lot of time training. He pulls a guy off a horse, gets on the horse, mounts it while it is standing back up from being down on its side. That is really, really tough.
And punches the guy he threw off.
Yeah.
Or another guy.
It's really, really difficult. I don't think I could do it now since it's been so long since I've, like, actively ridden on a regular basis. That's so tough. Him holding his reins, another horse's reins, and two other horses' reins in his other hand. That's really, really hard to do. He's only holding his horse's reins with one hand, with another horse and two more horses.
That's the thing we love about Harrison Ford. Let us not forget, we are talking about Harrison Ford on this episode. we got off topic a little bit, not talking about Harrison Ford, but the guy can actually fly, yes. Land, no. Well,
yes.
Okay. That's true. That is real
really
life
true.
right there.
Oh, my God. Was he predicting his whole future?
The guy can really ride horses. I mean, the guy, he's not just some BS actor phoning it in. All right, him and Tom Cruise, but that's it.
I mean, yeah, Tom Cruise is, I think, the last of the actors of the action genre, where they're going to learn how to do the things. I mean, even at the expense of, we're probably going to kill Tom Cruise one day, but let's hope
He'll
not.
kill himself. He's producing these
One
things.
more movie.
That's true.
He'll kill himself. Keanu Reeves did a little learning on the guns for John Wick.
That's true.
I know, but
I appreciate really great
but it is rare.
hand fight choreography also.
Yeah,
so
it's totally rare.
Keep that in mind.
Think of now that we've done this Ford Fiesta, we can go all the way back to Journey to Shiloh as Harrison Ford riding a horse
Even riding
in the
horses
late
all along.
60s.
There you go.
So he's had this time to integrate it smoothly and get better and better at it, and he didn't let that sit. He actually did improve. That's a good
Nothing
point.
more annoying than a guy that plays a real man, but he's not a real man. This guy is a real man, right?
I mean, that's one of the things I love about the character. Obviously he's rugged, he's handsome. Like, give me that open shirt moment, please, everyone. But I love how intellectual he is. He figures out, for example, at the end, breath of God, path of God, word of God. Not in that order. Sorry, invert those last two. He figures it out using his noggin, not using his pecs or his abs or his revolver or his whip. Cup of Christ, cup of a carpenter, please don't ask me about it. Famous schmodown moment right there. Not one of my prouder times.
What was it? What's the...
Don't make me say it.
Okay, never mind. I've forgotten.
It's all right. We'll put the audio in at this part of the
There
show.
you
We do
go.
post.
Sure.
There we go.
But I mean...
No, we won't.
And I love, like, he knows...
I mean, no, we won't.
Of course. Why would we do that?
No.
Like, Elsa knows exactly what she's doing. She knows exactly what she's giving Walter Donovan in that moment, and he knows that she knows what she's doing. They're all working this out. They beat, the crazy guy who's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not a Nazi. I swear, I just want the cup of Christ. It's always the story. Oh, no, I'm not with them. I'm just using them.
So Ilsa's like, hey,
brain.
Nazi, why don't you try this cup? This one looks like a good cup to drink out of.
Yeah.
Right? Because she's the one that picks it out.
It surely is the cup for the King of Kings. Except he chose poorly. Thank you. I mean, in the moment at the end where the only time that Sean Connery calls him Indiana, it's like, let it go. Don't fall down there into that really cool crash pad fog area.
What a great back and forth of the relationship between these two. And I'll cite the scene on the dirigible, the blimp, is just like, because up until then, they've been running and running and running, right?
Yes.
And you get those great moments, too. We talked about it, the motorcycle chase where Indiana Jones is like, get that giggly face, like, I got that Nazi. And he looks over and Dad's like, whatever, like shaking his head like, no, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. So there's all those little moments when the first time they finally get to sit down is there, and they have that great exchange about it. It's like, you left just when you were getting interesting, like the way they come together, but don't kind of.
I taught you self-reliance.
And I've learned so much that I'm doing it to this day, or whatever that line
and
is.
And they talk about having dad's sloppy seconds, which was also a weird conversation.
Yeah, that's weird to them.
Apparently,
it's
again,
weird to everybody. Imagine having that conversation with your father. Just think about it right now. Just think about it.
She talks.
You are the next man.
But in the classic thing, yeah, I was the next man. Yeah, all that dialogue is just so good. 1950s style, like Maltese Falcon dialogue.
Yeah.
Like Indiana Jones is supposed to be a throwback, but Raiders of the Lost Ark is a throwback that's so gritty. You know, the Temple of Doom is a throwback that is like a haunted house. They said riff. You know, more that's sort of. But this one is the Clark Gable movie. This one is the Cary Grant movie. This one is like the Hitchcock on the, you know, all the vistas and all that sort of stuff. It just really has a. But the way that dialogue goes back and forth like that, it is the most 50s. It really nails the era. I know it doesn't take place in the 50s, but that style, that classic Hollywood style, so well.
And also, you see so much Jurassic Park in this movie. Ben pointed out one instance to me, and then I kept noticing it.
What's that?
Well, for example, one of the ones that I remember, I should have written them down, is when they steal that poor man's car after they crash their plane, and they're looking back behind them, and they're using the little side mirror to like look behind them. There's numerous little things like that in this movie where you're like, oh, I'm seeing early Jurassic Park, like brain turning.
The one I could tell you about is a glass of water indicates danger.
Yes.
Because the shadow of it turns, and you realize the dirigible is turned back towards Germany.
Yeah.
So yeah, little things like that. Boy, he's such a master at telling stories, isn't he?
And even the little subtle things, like, you know, he knocks out or somehow disables the clerk or whatever you want to call him on the rigid airship. Yeah. And he puts on his clothes, you know, tickets, please. And it's so tiny. It's so tiny on him because that man is a teeny tiny little man.
Right.
It's just those little details where, you know, he's like trying to make it look like it fits, like he belongs there, and it just doesn't work. Little stuff like that I really appreciate, that most people nowadays, they don't care about it, or they're not putting it in their movies because they're like, well, people aren't paying attention to that. They don't care.
Yeah.
Noticing the costuming, though, as it relating to the relationship between father and son, and that is really a cool thing.
Yeah.
I had never spotted that. But of course, elsewhere throughout everything, between the dialogue and everything, you can see they really even more so than perhaps pursuing the Grail, that this relationship is being explored throughout the movie. And then when you look even bigger at the picture, this is Spielberg's thing that he explores in most movies that he makes, is this relationship between father and son.
And isn't it amazing how, and you know, we can smell it like a fart in a car if a movie's trying to squeeze that in of like, this is just kind of a bunch of chases. Let's stop down and talk about something serious for a second. And you're like, no, I didn't buy that. Like, or let's stop down to make it a love story. It just so seamlessly and effortlessly flows through this one that by the end of it, Indiana, Let It Go, you're like, oh, that's the natural point. They've come together. They've finally like solved their differences. Like they snuck that up on you. You're like, I was looking at the Grail and lights and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, by the end of it, I'm like, oh, they brought that full circle too. Astounding, right?
If you don't have a dad when you're a kid, that's going to happen, or you're going to befriend an alien.
This is true.
Yeah.
I also love them like subtly Steven Spielberg trolling Hitler, because they mention specifically Walter Donovan is like a cable from the Fuhrer himself. Execute the American conspirators, and you know. But then he's face to face with Hitler autographing the Grail Diary in the next scene, and it's like, Fuhrer's a moron. Like, if he had any idea who these people were, he'd probably have some idea maybe what they looked like, or would just look at the man and be like, you don't exactly look like my kind of people in this uniform here with your like very nicely tanned skin, your darker hair, your darker eyes, not fit in the bill of my master race here. Maybe I should ask a question or two. Like, Hitler was a moron, and I love it.
Germany has declared war on the Jones Boys.
Precisely.
Great trailer line right there.
He didn't take my advice.
Because he didn't take my advice.
Speaking of dialogue, she talks in her sleep, apparently improvised.
Really?
What I read, again, according to internet.
Oh, man, I love
internet.
But,
that was supposed to be revealed a little later in the story.
Oh.
Then they went, oh, well, that's a good line.
Another trivia question. What is on Indiana Jones' lighter?
4-leaf clover. It's his lucky charm.
Not great.
I know way too much about
this
movie.
That's great trivia. And that's the thing. They'd never ask you that because that's too well known at this point. Do you think that's obscure enough to...
I think it's obscure enough.
Okay.
I also love... I didn't really realize it. I didn't think about it because I'm not a very devoutly religious person in my adult life, even though I was raised in a religious household. All three of these original movies are basically confirming the existence of three major world religions because you have Ark of the Covenant, Judaism, Jewish God.
Oh, okay.
You've got Kali, Indian God, and then you have Cup of Christ, Jesus, the Christianity part of religion. What a thing that I love these movies so much, because usually I'm somewhat off-put by like overt, like demonstrative, hey, I'm going to talk about how God is real in my movie sort of stuff. But it's just done through this like prism of adventure and those serials that it's based on, the charisma of the characters, how well it's written. I don't even care. I don't care.
And the fourth one is Aztecs. That's Aztec, temples and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and interdimensional beings.
That's why Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite movie of all time, because those stakes about something really important is set up early and then just have fun.
Exactly. I built a diorama when I was in primary school, and it was about Egypt, because I have family roots, and I hid an Ark of the Covenant in there, like little miniature movie version of the Ark of the Covenant in my Egyptian pyramid.
Much like Steven Spielberg in Raiders of the Lost Ark hid an image behind Indiana Jones. What image was that, Mara? When they're picking up the Ark, behind him, scrawled on the wall of the Well of the Souls.
Was that a droid? Was that what that is?
Yeah, C-3PO and R2-D2 are on the wall. So we're getting a little training in
there we
here,
are, yeah.
too.
So let's hit the Harrison Ford definitive list of essentials. Does he have righteous anger in this movie?
Oh,
absolutely.
Tons. Yeah.
Especially when he gets betrayed by Ilsa.
Yeah, well, you go against everything the Grail stands for. Who gives a damn what you think?
Yeah, the boy, really righteous anger. Is that where the point is?
I don't know. There's
no
a point
there.
specifically when the car, Salah's brother-in-law's car gets blown up, and so it's like, okay, I'm gonna go down and get the horses, and Salah's like, I'm gonna get the camels. No camels.
No camels. That's right.
That's a point.
It wouldn't be the
I
same.
said no camels. That's 5 camels.
Yes.
Can't you count? Some good shouting. In
Also, while he's riding the freaking horses, dragging horses behind him, shouting at this man. It's just so well done, and he hits all his marks. It's fantastic.
That's our thing. Does he shout? Of course he does.
Of course.
Dads!
There's
Dad,
plenty of shouting.
What? Dad? Yeah. Come on, Dad. Yeah, there's some good quality shouting in this. Yeah.
It's everything. Smile and charm. Yes. He pulls it in that scene you're talking about with Ilsa while he's
when
giving
he
her the flower.
pins the flower on her, and but by tomorrow we'll have wilted. And they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I love that Brody interrupts. Shouldn't we be doing something? Like, what are you guys doing?
I love that he's cock-blocking.
We have a mission to go on here. Yeah, exactly.
And does he hit a guy? Okay, so we looked at the hits, and there seemed to be 18 of them. He also elbows Marcus in the face.
So say
punches a guy after the fireplace spins around. That's off camera, but still counts because you hear the legendary which we all love. And then he smashes the Nazi Michael Burns' head into the top of the tank before it goes over the edge.
Oh, yeah.
So is that a punch?
That's not a punch. That's not a punch.
No.
Well, much like in Raiders, when Marion and he get attacked by all the people that come out of nowhere, he knees and elbows one, and then he steps away, and that's where the sword has the apples on it, I think. There's like a knee and an elbow there, and now I'm thinking, did I count the knee and elbow?
Yeah, well,
did I overcount Raiders?
And this leads to how Harrison Ford is he in this movie in a percentage scale.
I mean, I feel like we get kind of the full spectrum. I mean, I will say I think that some of his best acting is probably in The Fugitive and Regarding Henry, but I think that you get the most
Harrison Fordness
of every little bit of what he is. You get the charisma, you get the action,
right? Because there's a lot of elements,
and you get the emotion. Dad issues. I mean, well, Steven Spielberg with a movie with dad issues. Surprise, surprise. But yeah, no. I mean, I'd say this is in the 90s for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every time he plays Indiana Jones, it's like 100% Harrison Ford. It's his role.
We had to have given 100 to Raiders, right? Yeah, we gave 100 to Raiders. Yeah. I guess that's the question then, because the most Harrison Ford he's going to be in any movies is going to be Raiders of the Lost Ark, Last Crusade, and probably Temple of Doom, lower than that. So which is higher? Did he even master it being Harrison Ford more in this one? Because you've got the charming scenes here's the good comparison. When he meets Elsa, the flower scene that I'm obsessed with, right? Mm-hmm. Is that more Harrison Ford, like Loverboy, or is the grittier, tougher introduction to Marion? He's cool, but he's going to get punched.
But in Temple of Doom, he has a similar scene to that in the bathrobe where he's wooing, or I think more she's trying to woo him.
Which one is the more Harrison Ford approach to wooing the lady? Is it getting punched by her? Is it?
I mean, I think it's the walk and talk, personally, because I mean, when he's standing in the bathroom and it's the will they, won't they with Willie, he's only doing one thing, thinking with his penis. When he's talking with Marion, he's like, I gotta get this Staff of Ra headpiece thing. This is very important, and I gotta pay you money, and like,
and
are there people
me.
here? Yeah, and how old were you?
So maybe that's less Harrison Ford in that way. This might be the most Harrison Ford. so far, right?
Interesting.
I would pose the argument that it is.
I mean, I think this would have to edge it out. I think we have to bump Raiders down to 99% and this one 100. Don't you think?
It hurts to do.
It does, but
does.
Didn't we just work that out?
Couldn't we have them tie for 99%?
It was just worked out.
Come on, wouldn't that be great?
All right, they're both 100.
Yeah.
Just different elements that go into that 100.
It was a little more 100, I think, for Raiders because he hadn't held the screen as a super actor yet.
Well, he carries that movie singularly far more.
Yeah.
Now he's mastering elements that he revealed for the first time as as being perfect at in Raiders. That's okay. Those are both 100. Those are the top two of all of them.
You love this movie.
I
but let
really
me
do.
ask you.
It's your favorite Indiana Jones movie,
Yeah.
obviously, right? Yeah.
So what is your favorite movie of all time? Expanding into the realm of every movie.
I'll give you a couple because I'm a downer. My legitimate favorite movie is Schindler's List for obvious reasons.
Not a weird choice, I'm going to say, because I just saw that again recently. And Spielberg is Spielberg in every movie. That has a sadder consequence. That has a sadder pall over everything. It is exhilarating the way he's telling that story. That is an impossible story to tell.
It sure is.
Who do you call to tell an impossible story and to put all of his wits into it and to take all of these, things that are hard to do. The shark is not working, or, you got your budget slash Raiders of the Lost Ark, whatever. Spielberg rises to the occasion to do all these things he doesn't know how to do, and he brings so much energy. Schindler's List is exhilarating storytelling.
I mean, I truly think you hit the nail on the head. It was an impossible movie to make, not just because of its subject matter, but because you literally are humanizing a Nazi soldier in the movie.
Yeah.
That's a really, really bold move.
It's
Cotton,
exhilarating,
let's see if
though.
It pays off.
It's Rafe Fiennes, and it's exhilarating.
Well, and then the end of the movie is the...
Yeah. I'm sorry. Both,
yeah.
actually.
And the end of the movie's...
I'm really taken by Goethe because that's a harder one, I think, to give humanity to.
I agree. You have the actual...
I missed the scene where he's human.
Yeah, but when was the last time you watched it?
He was trying to flirt with a maid, but it just seemed like
we'll get
a lot going on in that scene.
Yeah.
A lot going on. It's exhilarating to watch.
But you have the family members, survivors, and their descendants at the very end of the movie placing their stones on Oskar Schindler's actual grave. What a thing! You had the actual survivors and their families supporting this picture. It seems like it'd be impossible. It's
and
like,
it breaks the reality of the movie.
Yeah,
it's like here's the real. That's such a.
But it's like, hey, let me confront my trauma, the worst thing that could happen to anybody in the history of the Jewish people, and I'm going to be all for this. I'm going to walk with the person playing me in this movie, playing my real person, and walk over and be a part of the end of this film. What a thing.
Yeah.
Lawrence of Arabia, another big one.
Okay.
I love my desert spectacles. I really, really do.
Seen it on the big screen
Yes,
yet?
I have, yeah.
Oh,
it's the first
still
time I saw
haven't.
it was on big screen.
Still haven't. I'm waiting because I watched it once on tape in college, and I'm like, I know this didn't do everything it's supposed to do. I'm waiting, and someday going to see that in the theater. But I'm not going to watch it again until then.
Lee Whannell's The Invisible Man actually climbed up in there. I think it's an amazing, incredibly accurate portrayal of domestic violence, and it's a super smart way to redo an old classic Universal monster movie. It's like just throw it in there in the real world in a real way. And optics, using science to partially explain this unexplainable thing. So smart, so smartly written, well acted. Elizabeth Moss, chef's kiss.
Yeah, that movie is amazing. And that will be a modern classic. Like things that a couple years from now they're like, yeah, that's still, everybody still watches that movie because it's good.
And most recently added to the list is Top Gun Maverick, one of my favorite movies of all time. And I'm obsessed with Top Gun. I thought the hype was going to ruin Top Gun Maverick for me.
How many times have you seen it in the theater?
Too many, but not enough also.
Go ahead. Give me the number.
I want to try to get to 13.
Glorious.
I know.
When's the last time you saw a movie 13 times in a theater?
Probably Phantom Menace. I only saw Force Awakens 7 in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was too young to know better for Phantom Menace.
Can I mash up Last Crusade and Top Gun Maverick? Indiana, let go. I don't know how.
Yeah, so there's a wide spectrum of things in there. So, but I think you can tell though. I love
That's awesome.
Things that have a point, either emotionally or with spectacle, and that's really those 4 movies are it.
I love when a new movie busts up to, for me, number one was, it had never been anything for a long time other than Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars. Used to battle it out, usually depending upon which one I'd seen recently or when I got into Star Wars trivia, I'm like, oh, Star Wars back to the top, that sort of thing. But then Avengers Endgame came out and I was like, no. I feel the way I feel about my favorite movies of all time about this movie. That movie, That's been number one pretty much since. I mean, I gave it to Raiders the week we saw it. He gets an honorary number one.
You watch Endgame this afternoon, you'll give it to Endgame tonight.
So, it'll be Endgame.
I mean, recency bias is totally a real thing.
But not usually for me.
But you didn't mention any Harrison Ford movies, so we're going to have Ben, our intern, escort you out.
Well,
thanks for coming, Mark.
Hey.
Appreciate that.
My father was in a Harrison Ford movie. So,
what?
Yeah, he was in The Fugitive.
Oh, that's right. We talked about
we
this.
We did, yeah.
Who is he in The Fugitive?
He's a doctor.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
In the hallway there with Julianne Moore?
No, he's in the dinner scene. But
right.
I love that movie, though, because, again, I think some of his best acting, the scene where he's just, like, fumbling this interview with the Chicago cops, so fantastic. I love it.
I think we agreed that's our favorite film of his outside of Indy and Star Wars.
Oh, I can recite every line of that movie for you.
That was the one I played when I worked at a video store and had to have something on. I'm like, this isn't going to offend anybody, and it is one of the greatest movies ever.
It's the greatest. You watch it over and over and over.
Yeah. Well,
this was a blast. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Mara. That wraps this. Give us plugs. What do you got for social, wherever people should find you?
On Twitter, I'm @thatmara. On Instagram, @thatmaraLA. Someone still needs to teach me how to use Instagram. Please send me a DM. I'm
not
stupid.
gonna be us.
Oh, great, cool.
It is the least, it's the least user-friendly format, and it's the one that took off. It's great. You can't put links on there. You can't share posts. It's great.
I guess
and
you
it's
can.
what everyone uses to network now. Everybody.
I have a theory of the why, though.
Ooh, tell me.
Well, the whole internet's full of narcissists, and of course they don't want you to share or put links or do anything that would draw you away from looking at a picture of them. So that's it.
That explains why I don't post on Instagram. I don't take pictures of myself.
There you go.
Or my food.
What's your TikTok?
I don't have one yet.
Neither,
No, but I kind of need to because I'm starting a baking channel shortly.
Oh,
don't know if it will be live by the time this is live, but I'm gonna have to make a TikTok because food moves.
I have to do it for my film locations tour in Los Angeles as well.
That's perfect application.
You got to see these places, and move in and talking about.
Let me know. I'll follow.
I'm finally over being burned by Vine. I'm like, okay, I guess TikTok's gonna stick around. As soon as I get on it, though, it's gonna disappear.
No, but you're talking. You should have jumped to Snapchat, but that's gone now. TikTok's.
Oh right. No, I never did.
Yeah,
I never did. Snap. Yeah, it's burned by Vine. I was like, Snapchat's going away.
And of course, you can find everything we're up to at The Movie Guys on social, and of course, themovieguys.net. And Adam mentioned, or someone mentioned The Fugitive. We're moving into the 90s. Our next film is Presumed Innocent. Our little Harrison Ford's growing up now, doing the adult movies.
Paul, a movie I've never seen. The reason we started this show was because I realized, and Paul even realized, that there was some that he hadn't seen. Little did we know when we go back to the very beginning, we hadn't seen his first 10 movies anyway.
Before American Graffiti. Yeah.
But so I was expecting more things like Presumed Innocent to get to Alan Pakula, one of my favorite filmmakers. I was thinking more, this is exactly what I was thinking, like, we should do a Harrison Ford podcast because I'd never seen Presumed Innocent. So this is very exciting.
And then we'll get to the one I haven't seen, Paranoia. But no one saw that. So anyway, that's the show.
Line.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mara.
Thank you.
Punch it.